Hey, everyone. This is Andy Hall with Dr. Tomfoolery, cryptology communicator. I love that. And Nicholas Lamar. Is it Suter? Or Sutter? Is it Suter? I'm going to pronounce that as Suter.
Suitor is Supreme Court. It's as in the Supreme Court justice. So.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. And we have
Yeah.
the devil with us, Mr. Rage. How are you doing, Rage?
Oh, pretty good. Waking up, smoking that wake and bake bowl.
I can tell that you're in the now. You're in the now. If I was going to guess, if I was going to put on my clairvoyant, my powers of the Force, I would say that just by judging from just one or two sentences that you've just said, that you're in the midst of your first bowl.
Yep, definitely, and preparing the mind to do all that fantastic reprobate work today. So we're getting there.
The reprobate work, is that the work at work or the work on your channel?
Oh, on my channel. Yeah, okay. I'm off at work today, so I get to make heathen work. I get to do those heathen videos.
You get to work in the heathen mines.
Mm-hmm.
Looking for the heathen one. Oh yeah. So I was just talking in the pre-show that I have a friend of mine, and he's like my hide the body friend. I've known this guy for decades, back to high school. But and we were both big L libertarians together back in the day. And now he's just conservative for all intents and purposes. And he has voiced that he's not going to get the vaccine, and he hasn't gotten the vaccine yet. And because of the nature of my work, that I work with people who are immune compromised, that I do not wish to get, even though I'm vaccinated, I'm afraid of a breakthrough vaccination, maybe something asymptomatic even, and I would shed the virus and get them sick, even though I'm fully masked. So I'm going to have to do, because I've been avoiding him. I have been physically avoiding him. And I feel like I need to at least do a sit down and have a conversation with him.
Yeah, I anticipate that going
poorly.
I thought I was gonna have to do something like that with my dad. My dad's this staunch conservative. I remember like a few years ago, my dad was putting up memes about like killing libtards and stuff, and me and my brother were like, liberals here, Dad. But he finally went and got his shot and put it on Facebook and everything. And I was like, I dodged a bullet there because I thought I was going to have to try to talk him into it. So maybe a sign that at least some of the staunch Trumpers are coming to their senses. Maybe because he was definitely a staunch Trumper.
Yeah. Well, the vaccination rates are skyrocketing in states proportionate to the increase in COVID rates. So as COVID rates go up, people are vaccinated. That doesn't.
Well, yeah, and he lives in North Carolina, so I would probably consider one of those states.
Right. Yeah.
I slightly off topic, but maybe the same. I'm best man at my wedding. Roughly the same thing. Really, really liberal. He and I were liberal buddies, ride and die college, and then just became conservative reasonably rapidly. By that I mean over the course of maybe 5 years. Yeah. That's rapidly if you've been best friends for a while. And now it's to the point where we have a very hard time with the conversation because of the way his views are. But I guess in your case here, this is also a physical problem, because if he gets infected and then passes it on to you, so you actually can't hang with him.
Yeah,
is what you're worried about because of a breakthrough infection, because you could endanger other people.
Yeah.
Do you think he's going to be able to even at least recognize that, or do you think he's going to take it personally? If you don't mind my asking.
I don't know. I think I don't know. I just suspect that he won't do it, and that just like. I'm doing the stress response right here. I'm doing the stress response. So, as many of us know, those of us who are skeptics and atheists, that changing other people's opinions on something major can take a long time. And it can take more than several passes to actually get someone to change their behavior Um, so I don't know. This conversation could be the thing that gets him vaccinated, or this could just be on the road to him getting vaccinated, or this could just be another instance that he says no to vaccination and he will never get vaccinated. As I mentioned on the show before, this is the fog of war, right? This is the fog of war. Not all data is, you don't know what's going to happen. You can only make the best guesses and the best decisions that you can possible with the data at hand. And I think that right now, doing the sit down with him is the best thing for me to do.
Well, the other possibility is he thinks you're trying to weaponize your current position to make your point, which is that these are,
Well, the good thing about him is that we have so much history that, he knows all of my shitty tricks, and he has seen me at very low points. I'll give you an example. This is a true story, right? So, I was in this incredibly toxic relationship, and I'm sure that most of you are like really surprised at this, right? So I was in this incredibly toxic relationship, and my then girlfriend was out of the house, out of the apartment, and I arranged the moving van and him to come in. I didn't have a lot of stuff, and we were able to move everything out and into the moving van without informing her of what was going on, because I would be afraid of what if she was around during this particular move? What if I told her beforehand that I was moving out? So yeah, he's on that level. So and I think he'd be able to understand that I'm coming from a position of concern and compassion for the people that I work for.
Yeah, fuck him. I mean, completely. I'm totally out of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Rach, the girlfriend asks, did your dad say why he got the vaccine?
No, but I'm assuming, especially since he blasted it on his Facebook page, that it had to do with his job. I mean, he's I can't think of my words. It's still too early. But he's like in upper management for whatever company he works at down in North Carolina. So I'm assuming that they probably put the pressure on him.
Sure. I can see that. Well, that's the thing is that, like we were talking about in the first show, that there are governments and companies putting pressure on people to actually, and just the fact that just people are dying, people are getting infected left and right in those states.
Well, yeah, and that's like the scary thing for me is, he's older, he's taking retirement, and he's got some conditions that looks like, Dad, come on, you're kind of playing Russian roulette here.
I want to talk about what Tesla Ranger just said in the chat. Still waiting for Trump to throw a Mask of the Red Death style rally. I like your reference, sir. And I was actually at a restaurant a couple of weeks ago when the girlfriend was over in Montana, and we got there early, right? But we were sitting in the front of the restaurant, so we didn't notice people filing in, and we had to sit inside because it was raining outside. And I said, well, we were about to leave, and I had to go to the bathroom, and the bathroom was in the back of the restaurant. So I walked back, and it's entirely full. The restaurant is full of people. And I went to the bathroom as quickly as I could. Yeah, I couldn't hold my breath for the whole time. Not that would help anyone. That would not help me. I know, holding my breath to fight off COVID. But I went to the bathroom and came back, and I said, I didn't realize that the restaurant became the Mask of the Red Death, a redo of that. So yeah. Yeah.
Well, the amount of like misinformation coming from the right now in regards to this is just, I mean, it's atrocious. Like, people have free speech, but I mean, people like Rand Paul need to be held to account for the usage of that speech, because they are literally putting thousands, if not millions of people in danger.
Yeah. I just want to say hello to Clockwork Rex. Hello, Clockwork.
Hey, Andy. Hey, Knock. Hey, Nick.
Hey, what's up, Clockwork?
Hey, Tom. How y'all doing today?
Your voice is very calming to me. I just want to say that, Rex.
Coming alive. And with that voice, I'm going back to sleep. Yeah.
Don't shame
Fair
him.
enough. That's fair. That's fair. Did you ever get your googly eyes for your bike there, Andy?
I need to. Well, we have googly eyes, but they're too small. We need to get optimally sized googly eyes.
Okay. Well, I mean, you do talk to it a lot, so
It's the only. Yeah. It's either that. I could start talking to the finger puppets too. I guess I could do that.
Oh, I seen those behind you. I was like, what are those? Oh yeah, those are finger puppets.
Those are the finger puppets, right? And you know, I've been so busy at work over the weekend because I started working every weekend because an emergency situation. And not for, not full 8 hours, but I've had to go out, do like work because it's an emergency. And so my creative time has decreased significantly. So I was going to start using the finger puppets for just regular video bits, but yeah, that hasn't happened yet.
Well, you know, I mean, shit happens, and you got to do what you got to do. So,
Oh yeah, you're right about that.
yeah. I mean, this is just YouTube. I mean, I know it's like fun, and
Right.
you know, we get on here and give each other shit, but it
Oh,
is just YouTube. The real world comes first.
Well, this is true. And you know, I'm sure people get some value from whatever I do here on this space.
I would bet on. Oh, sorry.
but my work, like the hands-on work, that's the most important thing I could do. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Getting out there and
Yeah.
working on the farm for me, it like takes my mind off of everything because I'm focused on what I'm doing. Usually I'm not distracted.
Yeah.
I mean, but it has happened. But you know,
Mm-hmm.
when you're doing shit, when you're out in the world doing shit, you gotta be, what do they call it in the army? Situationally aware. You got to be aware of where you are and who's around you and what you're doing.
You're right about that. Yeah. Especially when it's complicated work, when there's several things going on at the same time.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
You'd be amazed at the amount of people that just like have no awareness out in public. Like, you know, I work in the public. I work with a lot of younger people, and these people are just oblivious. It's like they don't notice anything that goes on around them. And I'm like, I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand a person like that.
Oh, me neither. Like those people, I've watched YouTube videos of somebody looking at their phone and they like walk into a fountain. Or like, just do stupid shit because they're focused on their phone and they're not paying attention to what's going on.
When my kids were really young, and we were, in the supermarket together, and I'd be pushing my little shopping cart, and someone would do something really stupid with their shopping cart. I would just turn to him. It's like, can you believe this shit?
These fucking guys right here. Yeah. I get you.
How can you not know how to fucking put your cart to the side and let other people go around you? How is this possible?
Yeah, like I went to a grocery store yesterday, and there was like this whole family spread out all across the aisle, and I'm sitting there just patiently waiting. I'm not going to be rude, and they see me, they just don't care to move. It drove me insane. I got pissed.
Well, what I do, and I'll tell you about how Andy stays not too crazy in the supermarket, right? If people are like in the way and just like slack-jawed with their carts, I will make a sound. Like with my feet, I'll make a little stompy sound if it's just not a lot of people on the aisle with me. So I'll make them aware that I'm coming. And then if that doesn't work, then I'm going to have to use the voice of command with an excuse me, and just kind of like, sometimes I've had to move the cart too, physically, because they're just oblivious to what they're doing. But yeah, this is how. So yeah, am I surprised about what's going on in the pandemic because people can't even fucking handle their own carts in the shopping aisles?
Yeah, if the clearing your throat sound doesn't work, then you've got to take more extreme measures. You walk up behind them and go, and they don't get out of the way. Hey, get the fuck out of the way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm usually too high to be antagonistic out in the real world. I save that for YouTube.
Oh well, fair enough. But I mean, I usually get high when I get home. Get high and get drunk when I get home. So. But I do have 4 plants growing because it's legal in my state now.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, life changes when you can grow your own weed.
Oh hell yeah! I just hope I'm doing it right. They seem to be coming up. They're about 1.5 inches tall now. But I got to be able to.
You'll get better at it the more you do it too.
Oh, sure.
And it's actually a weed. They're kind of hard to get wrong, really. I mean, you can drastically improve it. There is a difference in quality, but for the most part, if you give it water, it'll grow.
Oh yeah, they call it weed for a reason Because you can throw the seeds out there and they'll just grow anywhere.
Yeah. Which is why we have to make it illegal.
Well, I can grow 4 plants and I can walk around with an ounce in my pocket.
Okay.
But the hard part is going to be figuring out which are the male plants and the female plants before they start pollinating.
Yeah.
That's what I got to work on. Yeah.
Yeah, my brother does it through cloning, but yeah, it's like a whole science to it, man. He gets into it. It's like his hobby.
I'm going to ask you a stupid question, Clockwork. So, is it possible that you have all 4 of the same sex plants?
Oh, sure, that could happen. That could very well happen. Yep, they could be all male. They could be all female, and I have to start over if they were all male, because only the females make the buds that you smoke.
Because God said it's Adam and Eve and not Adam and weed. That's why.
Yeah, I remember back in the day.
Don't make me thumbs down this video. Don't make me thumbs down this video.
I remember back in the day, people would mess up their crop and their crop would sperminate, and they weren't getting rid of that. They would just call it Hawaiian weed, and so you just buds chock full of seeds. Like back in the day, people were ruthless with it, man.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. And they'd get a hermaphrodite plant, and they'd be like, "Oh no, this is the good bud." I'm like, "It's got flowers on it."
They always called it the Hawaiian weed. I'm like, now that I'm older, I'm like, what was their problem with Hawaii, man?
Yeah, no, I know exactly right.
Yeah, that seems not so nice to Hawaii.
See, this is what I do. I come into a panel and I derail the whole fucking conversation. That's my job.
Absolutely no. Believe me, you derailing my conversation or my diatribe against the people at the deli counter not being able to manage their fucking carts. It is deeply appreciated, Clockwork. It is deeply appreciated.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. I get it.
There were no rails to begin with anyway.
So this Valentine guy, is he now coming out? He's now come out and said people should get a shot. Is that?
I believe so. Yes, his brother. He convinced his brother to get the shot. So, I guess at least he's telling people it's real, and you can see it's real because he's been quite public about it.
Well, I see you for 2 weeks anyway. It's going to be hard to avoid for the public to find out. So, so now there's now, I guess his brother was saying that he's been combating a lot of people saying, well, gee, I'm glad he got it, which I think we can all say, okay, we don't want anyone to get it. But on the flip side, if he stops, his behavior, and what Naka said earlier was, I used to call you Naka. I don't know if that's what the rate.
That works. That works.
What Rage said earlier was I thought interesting because, of course, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, so there are already limits to free speech. And if you are saying things that are convincing people to not take medicine that ostensibly they really need, and if people die as a result, which I think it isn't a leap to get from A to Z on that one, I'm not sure it's protected, and I think it's actionable depending on the severity of it. So. I mean, are we glad that he got it, or are we sitting there saying, like, if he's now saving lives, there's, and if that's what it took, then hey, at least that's how he got there, or is that not a moral position? I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
Well, do the ends justify the means? That's all I'm going to say.
Well, that's. Listen, if you want to just be direct and simple and actually get to the point, sure. I'm not known for doing that.
I'm a man of few words.
Yeah, I most certainly am not.
Yeah, I'm of the position. I'm kind of like what Andy said earlier. I don't blame stupid people for being stupid, but when you do have people pushing out just blatant misinformation, people are going to follow that, especially if that's like their news source. If they watch Fox News and all they see is misinformation about the vaccine, they're probably going to be even more sketchy to go get it. So I think that these people definitely need to be held accountable. It would probably be hard to do, but especially considering like just, we're still, the information on COVID is still coming in, so they could just probably pretend ignorance. But I don't know. It's something that must be done about it. I just don't know how you really go about it when speech is protected constitutionally, unless it's like a severe situation, like Nick said, shouting fire in a movie theater or something like that.
I think if the death rate was higher, as I alluded to, if in a hypothetical world, if the death rate was higher for COVID, then there'd be many more restrictions. People would not be playing around with this shit.
So you're not. All right, so you're not meeting the mortality rate. You're meeting the actual number of people who are dying, because more people would be dying if less people were being responsible with it, or if people were actively combating. It now is not only do you have to fight the disease, you have to fight the people who are actively doing misinformation about it. One reason that people aren't suffering as highly from this misinformation is because of a very active and prolonged anti-disinformation campaign, which has only been marginally successful.
Yeah, and I mean, to your point, just think about how many people would have died had the country not shut down like it did, and we just went about life as usual. Like like people rushed right back into a bit too quickly. It's that mortality, those numbers would have been astronomical at that point.
I just want to. I'm looking at this article from the Times about Phil Valentine, and yes, it's definite that he has been telling people they should get themselves vaccinated.
Well, Christie did.
I'm glad he got there, but a bit late.
A bit late, yeah.
Yeah, it took him a while. Yeah.
Chris Christie did the same thing, though, of course, which was Chris Christie was like, "Oh, this is a complete joke. Let's not." And then he gets it. He's like, "You know what? It turns out." Yep. And at least he seemed to be sincere and genuinely try to, but that was the time he lost all his voice at that point, because he was basically kicked out of the entire Trump administration. Well, he was never in it, but you understand, he was kicked out of the inner circle. And then,
and that seems to how it happens with all of them. They sing one tune until they are kicked out, or until Trump is gone. I'd even put Fauci in there. Fauci sang a certain tune while Trump was there. He had to, in order to be able to do any kind of work. Yeah. So I don't see him on the same level, but I think they all did that around Trump. And it's kind of mind-boggling that we didn't have, they always talked about the adults in the room, but there doesn't seem to have been many.
The power of the presidency is imperial, and that's part of the problem with the system. And until that issue gets resolved, then you just got to have one lunatic in the big seat, and the whole system can run out of control. What
infuriates me are the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world. She got her vaccine, and yet she's going around spewing all this nonsense.
Yeah, no, you're right about that, Ray. You're right about that.
Well, and then there was, but it's interesting because so there's Dick Cheney, who conservative as they come, except on one issue, which you won't talk about publicly, except on one issue: gay rights. Mm-hmm. Why? Because his daughter's gay. Yeah. So, and to be fair, we're all kind of like that. I mean, there's a reason you find more liberals in cities, because there's a higher population. So you're going to be stuck with a wider range of people that you're going to encounter. And then once you encounter, you're like, wow, this gay person isn't scary. They're just kind of like me. Oh my! But if you're in a more rural areas, you're less likely to at least encounter openly gay people and or be forced to actually engage with them and live with them. So you end up with people who are much more liberal when they have those experiences. But nonetheless, I think there are people who've never met a gay person who can still sit there and say, I empathize with somebody wanting to be themselves, and I want to be able to support that. But there seems to be this huge, unless it's happened to me, at least on the right, maybe I'm confirmation bias, I don't know, but unless there is an explicit experience with something that would give them more, quote, liberal values, they're just sitting there going, nope, no, COVID vaccine isn't real. Gay people aren't they're either violating the Bible or they're just not protected or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden a member of my family, and now I change my tune. And it's like, I'm glad you've come on over to the other side, but did it really take that to get there?
So I have two thoughts on that, Mr. Nicholas Uter. One, it's a crappy premise of a joke I've been working on about how selfish cancer survivors are who are now working for cancer charities. It's like, come on, right? I'm trying to make that funny. right? Because there's a little bit of selfishness there.
I'll bet you can get there, but it'll take a while.
It's going to take some road work to that, right? Because it's one thing to work for a charity that hasn't against something that has never affected you, but there's a bit of self-interest there, I think, with a certain amount. And two, and this was brought up by Sam Harris on his podcast, is that why hasn't there been an effective counter strategy by the government to counter these clowns who are doing this kind of disinformation on COVID? Because let's face it, if there was like a real counterinsurgency strategy, a big counterinsurgency, I don't think the anti-vaxxers, I don't think the vaccine hesitant people could really handle it. I don't think they'd be able to resist as strongly or to be as effective as they are now.
I think some would entrench, but I think you're right. The numbers would go down. The numbers would go down, and those that were left would become more extreme because they'd feel that they're being oppressed. But we still have flat earthers, for fuck's sake. And I agree. Most of those are pose. Some actually believe it. The guy who hopped into that rocket and tried to get that high and then killed himself.
Oh, that chauffeur! I think it was a chauffeur, wasn't he?
I forget what he was, but yeah.
I think it was the chauffeur built his own rocket, and just to find out, he did his own research. Everyone, he did his own research.
homemade rocket got 500 feet, and I got more than 500 feet. I mean, he got up there, but I remember watching the thing, and it comes down, and it came down hard, and it crashed, and it was just the person who was there recording it for posterity was just like, we're not expecting he survived. They didn't even bother going to the site before they made the declaration that he didn't make it.
Yeah. And that's the perils of doing your own research without proper controls.
Yeah, well, and I think a problem is, I think most of us tend to be herd animals. We kind of adapt to our surroundings, and what everybody believes around us, we eventually kind of do the same shit. I was from the North. I was raised very liberal. My dad was a liberal, moved us down south, and we all changed. I became very conservative and racist and homophobic because everybody around me was. Once I broke away from that and I removed myself from that situation, I moved back north. Yeah. I've just watched as my dad became just more and more like the people he's surrounded by, to the point that I can't really tell him apart from any of them.
Yeah.
Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? I mean, there's a reason we do that. It's because you can't investigate every single claim.
Yeah.
So you hang around people who you trust, whose values are similar to yours, and you crowdsource your information. You can't read. I think it was Carl Sagan stood in front of the New York Public Library and said, 40 million books behind me. Yeah. It would take, and then he calculated the number of lifetimes it would take to read them all. It's just like, so it's a key of knowing which ones you're going to, and we screw that up all the time. But that's why we also rely on kind of outsourcing through trust. But that also does mean that if we misjudge the group we're in, or if the group changes, because the group will, there's an Overton window and it starts to move one way or another, then you get dragged with it one way or another.
Yeah, and right now that Overton window's sitting at Hitler.
All right, I'm calling it. Hitler was mentioned, and actually we went a pretty good distance on this one. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, man. I mean that window has just went so to the right that, and as you said, like, you see the reverse of that now. So you see more and more people kind of going to the extreme left, because of it. It's odd.
Yeah. Well, yes, I would like to believe that some people have realized, have been woken up to, just like a lot of us were woken up to the evils of religion after 9/11. There's a fair amount of the population who probably realized that, dang, fascism is real, and maybe we should do something about it. And so that's probably one of the reasons why people are investigating the left more than before.
Yeah, and I think it's becoming harder and harder to deny, like, the fascism within the religions they were growing up in. So I think as more people kind of get away from the religion, they open themselves up to ideas maybe that they had rejected before politically, and along those lines.
Oh, definitely. There's a whole bunch of baggage that you get when you're an evangelical Christian. here in the States. You know, there's a whole social, political, economic model that basically is baked into it. And getting people out of evangelical Christianity is probably one of the most important things you can do to help break that whole structure down.
Well, I mean, it was like that pastor guy that you showed that was saying, "Oh, the Delta variant, and don't wear a mask in my church. If you want to go somewhere and wear a mask in your church, go to some other church." I was like, fucking punch this dude in the throat and at least shut him up for 5 minutes. Yeah.
I mean, Greg Locke he'll be okay if he just gets off the steroids. I mean, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he's running that church service seemed more like a WWE.
I mean, I was gonna cover him, you know, because he's making national news with a lot of the stuff he said, and I ultimately decided not to because YouTube is yanking channels down that even delve into the misinformation around COVID. I don't see how he's on YouTube at all, honestly.
Well, I call it the coronavirus, so that in the hopes that it won't get your channel yanked, you know, because you said that word.
Yeah, well, and they do seem to be doing it around the disinformation, you know. So, because I've had quite a few videos about COVID when it first came out, and never had an issue with them because we weren't giving misinformation about it.
Right.
I think that's what you guys were talking about, though. I think it was last week, which was that, of course, the algorithm does not differentiate between context. So if you sit there and say misinformation or accurate information, all it knows is that you've said it and said it repeatedly. So then,
that's a good point. I would probably be totally handling it different because I just decide I don't talk about it anymore because why take the risk?
Yeah.
Well, that's fair. But the only way to combat bad speech is with good speech.
Totally.
Country. Yeah, in this country, that's the only way you can do it.
Yeah, I probably should get back to it. It's been a while since I've done a COVID thing, so I should do something.
Well, I mean, that's up to you, Knock. But people are going to believe what they want to believe. That's it. We've lived life and we've seen this. People are going to believe what they want to believe.
Yep.
Right.
Whatever makes them feel good, they're going to believe it.
Well, that's why I'm an advocate about not feeling good myself. This is my own personal testimonial with this. I'm all about not following.
What does feeling good mean?
Listen, if there's anything I can do to make you feel more like shit, let me know.
I always feel like shit.
Thank you. It touches my heart to tell you the truth. But really, it's like I'm more about feeling less bad. If I can do less bad, I feel like hitting my personal goals right there.
I'm telling you, like my shot in my foot's starting to wear off little by little. But these last 2.5 weeks, that I haven't had any pain in my foot and I've been able to live normal. Like life has been happy and I've been ecstatic and living life again. So feeling good is important. I forgot how it felt because I felt like shit every day for 7 years.
Oh, but you lived in pain. Yeah, you lived in pain. So I mean, I'm happy for you, Knock. I really am.
Yeah, I'm I'm scared shitless about the surgery, but now I'm like all gung ho. Like let's do this thing so life can get back to normal.
Oh, exactly.
So, dude, you getting another shot in your foot?
No, I just got the one. So we did this MIG test on it, and they electroshocked my muscles and put these needles into my nerves and stuff. It was excruciating, and just for it to come back inconclusive because they couldn't find the nerve in the very bottom of my foot, which was the important nerve to find. And it's because of nerve damage and all that crap. So he put the shot in as the final test to see if it's tarsal tunnel. And, if my foot got better, if I was, if I had no pain, then we knew what was wrong. So that's been the experience the last 2.5 weeks. So now August 4th, I go back and we should be setting the date for the surgery.
That's great, dude. That's fantastic.
Yeah. I'm going to be playing basketball again, man. I haven't played basketball in like 8 years, dude. It's going to be awesome. That's how I always kept thin,
I can do two things really well, which I'm sure everyone's going to be surprised at. I have a great ability to shoot a 3-point shot, and I can foul people really well, like really well. Those are my two basketball skills right there.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in North Carolina. It's kind of like it's bred into the youth there. You just everybody plays basketball everywhere, all year long.
Oh, it's like that in Virginia too. Yeah,
Mm.
we've got the North Carolina Tar Heels and what is it? The Cavaliers.
Yep, Virginia Cavaliers. Yep.
Yeah, the Virginia Cavaliers. Yeah, they're like a big rivalry.
Oh yeah,
out this way. Yeah,
they take that shit seriously down south.
Ain't no playing about that shit.
Yeah, the Virginia games, Clemson, we had a big rivalry because I'm a Tar Heel fan. Nothing tops Duke. I was a Tar Heel fan. My brother was a Duke fan. My dad was a Wake Forest fan. Our February, March, we didn't speak to each other because we'd get in a fight.
I can see that. I like the Demon Deacons just because they were the Demon Deacons. But I like the Tar Heels too.
See, I actually grew up outside of Winston-Salem, and that's where Wake Forest is. And I'm going to tell you something about Wake Forest. They're all a bunch of elitist preppers who are going to this very expensive school on their daddy's dime. And fuck all of them people.
That's fair. That is absolutely a fair statement.
But I could be biased. I'm a Tar Heel fan.
So exactly, in terms of a Tar Heel, what is a Tar Heel? How did that?
I don't think we even know what it is.
That's lost to the annals of history.
Sounds like
it has something to do with tar and feathering. That was something that
way back in the day. Yeah. One of those type things. Yeah,
killing folks.
Got to do with lynching somehow. There's actually a town in Virginia called Lynchburg. And how do you think it got that name? How do you think it got that name?
Yeah, you'd think they'd change it by now, right? Like we're just finding out the town that I live in as I smoke my weed and choke. The town I live in, Battle Creek, is based off of some atrocious battle that we had with the local natives here. And now there's this movement to change the name of the town. And at first I got sucked into the propaganda. And like, why would we do that? No, that's stupid. But then you find out the history and why our town is called Battle Creek. And then you're like, yeah, we should have done that a long fucking time ago.
Yeah, that should have happened before now. Yeah.
So Tar Heel, I'm just found this, and a related term, Rosen Heel, was often applied to poor white laborers who worked to produce tar, pitch, and turpentine. So see, I learned something.
Look at Andy Googling shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and then
the marvels of computer science, you know more than actual North Carolinians do.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm like these fucking people that claim that vaccines don't work and shit. I'm like, you have Google, right? I mean, you can look this shit up, right? The whole world's information is at your fingertips, but you choose to go to like Answers in Genesis and find your shit.
Sometimes I honestly think that somehow, some way, some people are able to like reverse their searches. So instead of getting those top searches, like their computer just automatically goes to page 550 in the search. So they get all of that shit information,
all the bullshit.
Yeah. I don't know how they do it, but somehow, some way.
Well, it's a garbage in, garbage out machine, and how you phrase the question determines how you get the results. So if you say, is COVID real, you're going to get different results than if you say, is COVID fake? Very different results.
Okay.
So
that's critical right there. Yeah.
Your approach to how you're asking the question is going to influence the results you get back that are going to be tailored towards the whatever biases you inadvertently had in that question. And the other thing is, I used to argue with flat earthers, and I did this mostly just because I found it interesting to get into these discussions. But one of the things I realized is, if you take global skepticism and are willing to apply it ad infinitum, just a reducto, just keep applying because of the nature of knowledge, and that ultimately you can't actually in a capital T truth way prove anything. You can keep applying it so that you can cast reasonable doubt on any level of evidence, so long as you don't stop that reducto. And so then what that means is you can get people with COVID, the COVID vaccine, who will find the evidence. Then, like, well, wait, Naka, you're not being critical of. You're a critical thinker, right? Why aren't you questioning? You know,
because I understand what the word reason means and reasonable doubt. That's why.
I've actually been approached like that. Yeah. Young Earthers do the same exact thing.
I always say, it's like, where would you put the smart money if you were betting your money, if you were betting your paycheck on a particular, I don't know, topic? Then where would the Vegas odds makers be? Earth is round or Earth is flat? So that's a rhetorical device I like to use. It's like, where's the smart money going?
Well, and the people, okay, and who's getting the vaccine? And what you'll realize is the first ones who want to get it are the researchers who know what the hell this thing does, and it's not even them. If you say, listen, you got a family of 4, you got one vaccine, who are you giving it to? They're saying, my children. I want to give it to one of my kids. So if that's what the people who are the scientists on the front lines of this thing are saying, I'm going to put my money on them, because I don't have time to get a PhD and try to understand it like they do.
Well, and we've just seen it work throughout. I mean, even in our own lifetimes, we've seen it work. Like, you know, if polio was still a thing, then maybe I could see some legitimacy to an anti-vax. But like, it's not. This is how we get rid of these dangerous diseases.
Or people forget.
You brought up a good point. That's my go-to thing whenever an anti-vaxxer comes up. Well, I've got this scar on my arm for the polio vaccine and I didn't want it. Well, would you rather have a scar on your arm, or would you rather live out your life in either a wheelchair or an iron lung?
Yeah.
Because that's what polio did.
And because we don't have it anymore, people don't realize how bad it was. My father's generation, my father was a football player in high school. 3 members of the football team were taken out. They were either killed or paralyzed for life as 3 members of his high school football team. And that was just a football team. There were other kids in the school. And this thing, I forget what the numbers were, but I remember doing a deep dive into it once and not realize there was nobody in this country who did not personally know somebody who was either killed or just permanently debilitated by polio. It was that bad. And there's a reason we don't. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish your point.
COVID is somewhat similar for some of us. I mean, it doesn't deform you, but a good 20% of us, we keep it. And it continues to ruin our bodies, and we're going to be dealing with, you know, like somebody like me. I had pre-existing conditions in my legs when I got COVID. Now that has worsened significantly. I've got all of these surface level blood clots now, and they're telling me straight up that's COVID, and that's going to pretty much happen for the rest of my life now. And like I said before, a lot of this information is still coming in. You know, we're not going to have like the complete idea of just the damage that this thing has done to our society for quite a few years to come.
I just want to touch on what Chris Marias said. They were saying, I feel sick about, I was part of church last year. I was part of the problem. You know, I mean, we've all done things that we're not proud of. And
we've all
especially Andy, man. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh man, I used to be a psychopath, man. Yeah, like not much has changed, but I'm not a hateful person anymore.
And I want to say too, Chris Maria, is the fact that, you know, when good people do bad things, we feel guilt about it, right? We feel like we want to make something good. You know, we want to do good. So I think that's the difference between good people with good people, is that we feel bad about things when we do them.
Well, and actually learning to forgive yourself is I'm no good at that. I've never figured that out. But you can't get through life without hurting people, and you can't get through life without making mistakes. So all you can do, and I kind of like how Andy phrased this earlier, which is all you can do is just say, I'm going to try to not do as much harm tomorrow. That's kind of a glass is half empty kind of thing, but that's all you can do. Nobody lives a life without. Gandhi hurt people. Martin Luther King Jr. hurt people. The question is, what can you do to hurt fewer the next day, and to try to make everybody's life experience on this planet, as short as it is, as good as it can be in the net? And that's about it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was going to say, loving somebody takes effort. Hating somebody takes effort. to hate somebody takes effort. You've got to put time and thought and all that other bullshit into it. To be indifferent about shit doesn't really take effort.
Mm.
You're just like, I don't care.
That's I'd like to hear more of your views on hating someone takes effort. That hasn't been my experience. I think for me, what I at least view. So when I take a look at the KKK, and I always say this, I have to believe on some level it's kind of rewarding to be in the KKK because you're with a group of people who are sitting here saying, we're better than everybody, not just black people, but we're better than the white people who say that we're not better. So you're in this group and it's bound by hatred. And hatred necessarily assumes that you are better than that which you hate. You cannot hate something that's superior to you. So it's self-aggrandizing. So what I've found is, and the few times I don't like hatred. I despise hatred. But when I feel hatred welling up in me, it feels empowering. It feels cathartic. And that hasn't been my experience unless we're talking about two different things.
I got just as an aside here, and that I can hate things that are better than me. They're like Rage. I know Rage is a little bit taller than me, and to tell you the truth, I fucking hate Rage for that. A little, just a little.
Okay, but that's jealousy. That's I would argue there's so many reasons to hate Rage. It's kind of hard to tease out what.
Trust me, you don't want to be 6'5" because everybody asks you to reach everything that they can't reach.
Right.
Oh, yeah. It's a car, right? That you can,
Get a goddamn step ladder or some shit. Yeah,
that's what I say. Like you unevolved motherfuckers need to carry a stool. You know.
Yeah, I think that when you get down to basic physiological responses, when you say that you hate something, there's a physiological response to it, right? That's and a physiological, and so that's some kind of energy being exerted to some extent, I would imagine. But if you don't care about something, I've had more than one therapist tell me, Andy, the opposite of love isn't hate, it's apathy. And sure, maybe I've taken that to heart to some extent, and now I don't care about a lot of things, or a lot about people who were in my life that were toxic, right? So trying to move from hate to maybe water that down to apathy. Yeah.
Yeah, I really try not to hate anybody. It's been hard, and sometimes I fail at it. But like even the people I go at the most, I try to empathize and understand their positions, and I try to always leave room for them to change. Yeah. I'm taking crap right now because I'm giving Brett Keane some leeway that I wouldn't give other people. But I understand like he's in a moment that could possibly be actual real change. And if I don't give this guy a lot of leash, and if I just join the chorus of everybody that's just screaming and cursing at him, then he's just going to fall back into his old ways and methods. I have no illusions that my assumption is that Brett Keane will fall back into his old ways and methods, but I'm still going to give him that rope, and I'm not going to hate anybody for anything. I'm going to try to understand, and I'm going to try to, me as a person, I realize everybody's capable of doing really good and everybody's capable of doing really bad. Yeah. It just depends on the situation you're in.
Well, I think let me make because I think a toxicity is a good word to use here. And I think what creates a toxic environment is because I think hatred is self-destructive. I think you have to tear down yourself on some level to act on that hatred. And I think people can obsess on it, and people can, but I think the reason that happens and that it works that way is because it does give you energy, and people often will spend more energy on things they hate.
Oh yeah,
and things they love. So it's easier to oppose Trump than support a candidate who might make change. And I think we get energy from saying, I'm going to go down to this rally and I'm going to protest Trump. I think more people have more energy to do those things than to say, I'm going to go out and I'm going to door knock for this other guy that. So.
I did fail at it, and I hate Smokey Saint, and it has become very toxic, and it does take a lot of energy, even when I'm doing nothing on the guy. And I'm trying to learn how to let that go because it will sicken you as a human being.
I think it can actually be a source of energy, but I think it also does tear you down. I think it can be. Yeah, it feels empowering and it feels self-aggrandizing. So I think hatred has and it's a great way. It's almost like a pain gate. you can only really feel pain from one source at a time. So if I'm in a serious sharp pain on one side of my body, I can punch my leg and that dull pain actually takes over and reduces the sharp pain. If you're suffering in your life for whatever reason, hating on someone else and going after other people is a way to affect some form of catharsis over how much the rest of your life sucks. Yep. So that was only why. I mean, I think Clockwork Rex probably is correct, but I think it's just a different perspective. So that's why I wanted to hear a little bit more about it takes energy, because it looks to me like it actually feeds energy. And then what happens is you get caught in a toxic, not self-fulfilling, vicious cycle where you feel bad about yourself. You have consequences in your life from your hatred, and so the result is to actually hate more, because that's how it's almost like alcoholism or any other.
It's a positive feedback loop. That's what it is. And when you have a structure like a cult, or a cult of any kind, political, religious, whatever, then that just reinforces that positive feedback loop and keeps you in there.
Yep. Yeah, good talk today, man.
Yeah, this has been fun. Fun. Yeah. Well, in my opinion, in my personal opinion, hating someone hurts you more than it hurts them. And that's just where I'm coming at it from.
Oh, yeah, I think I agree with that. My hatred of Smokey kind of empowered him, I think. And that's what I'm trying to let go. People are gonna say awful things about people that stand in opposition of them. So if you're an atheist and you're standing in opposition of religion, people are gonna say awful things about you. If you're a religious person and you stand in direct opposition of atheists and say horrible things about atheists, they're gonna, it's just a thing that humans do, and that's what I'm. I can't control him, so I should stop giving his voice pretty much any credit at all.
Well, that's it. It's more than one person has said, you learn to control the things that you can control, right? And the things you can't control, you just can't control. But it's difficult to wrap your mind around that.
Well, and the thing is, we're not given an understanding of right or wrong when we're born, and we don't have roles. Ants, I've actually been a little jealous sometimes of ants. An ant is born, it knows exactly what it's supposed to do. There's certain kinds of ants that they have a role. The person who educates his slaves, who gives them great health care, who takes care of them, who makes sure that they have time off and gives them free time to do their own things, is a saint 200 years ago, and he is a monster today.
Yeah.
Monster today, same guy. So because our understanding of who we are and how good we are as people is relative to that which is around us, there are two ways to make yourself a better person. Two ways. One is to do the hard work of improving yourself and trying to make yourself a better person. The other is doing the really easy work of shit-talking everybody else and getting them lower, because if they are worse in some way, at least in your own mind, you feel better by comparison. So it's this, but now that shortcut works great. It's easy to do, but the problem is it's not sustainable, and then you have to do it all the time to everybody because you're not making any genuine improvements in yourself. So it ends up being a very poor long-term strategy for being someone that you would like to spend time with. Aside from the fact you're also being an asshole.
Yep. Just to address the side chat, I try not to equate one with the other. I get angry all the time. Anger in the moment is kind of just a normal thing for me, and I can get past it and not hate a person. I truly, there's been very few people that I actually hate. I hate most people that are in like white supremacist groups, but I also try not to show that because I don't think that you can change them with hatred. Like I said, Smokey's really the only one on this platform that's really caused me to hate. I've been angry plenty of times, but I can usually get over that. It's just, it's hatred is something that in your gut, that I think is quite separate from anger.
There is a depth and breadth to hatred, right? So anger, like you were saying, Rage, that is like a transitory state, while hate, like you mentioned Jordan Peterson with me, or you talk about the amazing atheists, and that can get me going. That could get me. So does that border on hate? I don't think so, but I think that's that is a deeper and broader kind of character trait, maybe, or part of your personality, much more than just a transitory state of anger. Yeah.
Yeah, anger. I just said in the chat. I can hit my shin on the table and be angry about it, but I don't hate the table for being there. You know what
But
I mean?
if the table were right in your way, so you couldn't get in or out of the
No,
house
I
without,
fucked up. No, I
with,
fucked up, Nick. I fucked up and didn't watch what I was doing.
no, but my point is, this is my point about the difference between anger and hate, right? If the table had been moved so that you couldn't get into the house without hitting it every single time, you would at least hate the place. You eventually, if you just get so agitated by constantly. So it's the transitive versus the. So I'm just trying to take that.
Oh, goddamn, you're getting pedantic.
Yeah, I think it's like I'll tell you this. I was living in this house that was built by Highland Scots. They were just wee people, right? So and basically built a house themselves. And every single time I went downstairs, I banged my fucking head against the fucking ceiling.
Oh yeah, I do that when I go to the basement. Yeah,
it was like really narrow. And I'm going, I fucking hate this house after a bunch of times of knocking my head despite my best efforts and going through the wee stairwell. And yeah.
No, don't hate the house. Don't hate the house, Andy. Hate the fact that you don't remember to fucking duck when you go that way.
I think that's blaming the victim.
I agree. That's blaming the victim. I totally agree. I had a buddy of mine who had a car, and it was a smart car. And I'm not. I'm 6'1", so I'm not quite with age, but I'm tall enough that I do have to worry about cars. And this one was small, even for somebody who's significantly shorter than I am. And at first, I was like, no, it's okay. You know, I can go through the trouble of having to. I have an injured knee, so it's harder to sit lower just to even get into the thing, and then put my head down. And then every time he hits a bump, my head hits the top of the If that happens once or twice, you know what? I'm just like, okay. But it got to the point he was very proud of this car because it was a smart car. It's electric. And this was especially when electric was still brand new. Yeah. And then he can't, and I'm sitting there going, I am genuinely starting to. It's happening enough that I was emotionally imprinting on the car in such a way that I was like, I hate this car. It is a torture device for anyone who is over 5'8". That's all it is, and it's one that you have to plug in to get it to work.
The world is built for short people, man. I'm telling you. I blame being bald. Like, you know, I've got this bald spot on the top of my head. I blame that on hitting my head against shit.
Oh,
no, blame that on your mom's dad, because that's where the genetics came from.
Yeah, I think my dad has more hair than me, man. It's like
no, your mom's dad.
Yeah, actually, he died real young. Yeah, I misheard you. I just heard dad. He died real young, so I never really got to see his hair. You know, he died when I was real young.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, it comes through your mom. Your hair genetics come through your mom.
I know, but like, man, I grazed the top of my head on everything. Everything. It hurts like
quit
a
being
bitch,
so
too.
goddamn tall. Quit being so goddamn tall.
Well, you know what's interesting about that, Clockwork, is that if I'm getting my hair through my mom and I just met my brothers, my genetic half brothers, you know, for the first time, then they're all losing their hair. And I look like I'm just going to be keeping whatever I have until, you know, whatever happens. So that's interesting.
Well, I mean, I'm 48 years old. My mom's dad had a full head of hair, and so do I. And everybody on my dad's side of the family have lost their hair. And they give me shit about that all the time.
My dad's side has hair. My mom's probably not. Like my uncles, they don't have any hair.
Well, yeah, then that's where it came from.
All right, I'm gonna have to start closing out the show, everyone. You guys got anything going on between now or whatever? Anything interesting happen?
No, I'm not interested. What the fuck, man?
I've got Brett Keane tonight, and then I thought it was Saturday, but Friday I'm going to talk to Thick Shades, and it's going to be one of my final attempts to once again put a wrap on the whole Smokey Saint thing and never talk about him again. So we'll see if that actually happens.
We'll go without God.
Yeah.
So we've got
S2 B2 dominate.
So In Time has Marianne, who's a Christian atheist. She's going to be back on trying to explain what Christian atheism is, what post-theism is, and why Christian atheism is not a contradiction in terms. And that was supposed to be like a 2-hour conversation, and we ended up still calling it short. So this is part 2, and it's going to be a call-in show. That's tonight. And then next week, Dr. Todd Frank Miller, who was just on Neil 604's channel, he's going to be coming on to discuss critical thinking, what it is, and what biases are, and how basically no matter how well you know them, you're always going to be subject to them. And how to. So that I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be next week.
Constant vigilance. That's what it is. Nick, are you actually a moderator on this channel?
I don't think so. I can chat.
Well, you should put I don't know, a comment in the chat, and then I can hit a button, and you could be a moderator, and then you can put links in.
Wonderful. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Let me.
Oh, Andy made me a mod on his YouTube channel, and that was probably a mistake. But you know,
A mistake.
There we go. It just so yeah. Let me. I appreciate that. I'll put a link in. So.
Well, you're official moderator now. So.
I have power now. I'm going to just get drunk with
my wrench.
I'll get drunk with indifference, but
Drunk with indifference. I like that. I like drunk with indifference. All right. On that note, everyone, I'm going to have to leave. I have to go to work. So thanks, panel. Thanks, everyone in the chat, watchers, observers, lurkers. I will see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. for whatever we do here.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
And I'm supposed to be hitting the button, and it's not buttoning. Here it is. Now nope, it's still not. Damn it.
Nope, not yet.